Of all nights, why did I choose tonight to talk about Star Wars? I don't really know. I was watching a little bit of the Comic Con stuff and Kevin Smith talking about visiting the set. Yeah, I think that maybe that's what prompted it. But it was a moment that he said. I've said this in a previous video just the other night. That he said, he was on the set, walking around, going like, thinking like a filmmaker. Here's this amazing set. It's real, it's tactile. This is great. And they invited him over to the Studio M, where they have the Millennium Falcon. Well, he goes in, the lights are off. Some British guy asks him, "Do you want me to turn on the light?" And of course he says yes. And there he sees the Falcon. And in the minute he puts his foot on the ramp to go into the Falcon, it all hits him. Like he's a 7-year-old kid again, remembering. This is just kind of quoting him, by the way. His first love that he fell in love with in Star Wars. And I know what he means. Like, I think. Well, I would just see the set and break down, probably, because I'm a sissy like that. But it's amazing. I know the feeling. And there are a few things that aren't real that can cause that movement in me. And Star Wars is one of them. Like something new Star Wars comes out that's like canon nowadays, especially. Like before, I didn't read a lot of the Star Wars stuff, and I'm glad now that I didn't. I did read the Timothy Zahn series, which I thought was fantastic, and I hope he goes in that direction. I think the fans deserve a little bit of that, you know what I mean? I think you should have them married at least, Han and Leia. In my opinion, if the movie were to start. And I think you should have the children that they've had over 30 years, because they can't have super young kids right now. They're in their, 60s now, or 70s. Jeez. And so, that's something I'd like to see. But I want to talk about Star Wars as a whole. I think I've said before, the first thing I remember in life is Star Wars. I remember TIE Fighters. I remember sitting in the theater. I think I was 2. But my family wanted to go see this new phenomenon or whatever, and they brought me along. I might have been a little bit older. I can't remember. I think I was 2, though, at the time. That was probably the re-release. And that just says a lot, because I don't remember a lot from my younger years at all. Like, I couldn't tell you anything about my past. Like in those years. Probably, like, the first 8 or 9 years. No, 7. Probably the first 7 years. I couldn't tell you much. I just don't remember much of them. But I do remember Star Wars. I remember having the figures and the sheets, and my whole life was Star Wars. Anything I could get my hands on, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. There's where marketing comes in. There's where my slavery to marketing starts. That's where George Lucas made his billions, was in marketing, or millions at least. But I didn't care. I wanted just have anything that was related to Star Wars. If it was in a magazine on the rack and I was going through the line, I'd be like, we gotta get that. Star Wars is in it. That's how it was. Like, and I'm sure everyone has something like that in their life. For some people, it's their home team football team. You know what I mean? But for me, it's just, it's Star Wars. Fantasy and Star Wars. But I think they go hand in hand. The mythology of Star Wars is just very... not Shakespearean. What's the word for it? I don't know. I can't think of the word I'm trying to use, but it's more profound than your typical surface sci-fi thing. Like there's an ancient history behind it. You can sense it and feel it about the show. I think, or the movies, or at least the first 3. You could just get captured in this other world, and you need to know what's happening to these people. I mean, you got to check in on them every now and again, and eventually they'll be gone, which is understandable, and then I'll be gone. But Star Wars will now probably live on for as long as people exist and want to watch new forms of entertainment. Star Wars, I just wanted a lightsaber growing up so bad, watching the movies and just seeing what those things could do. Then I will say, now mind you, I am not a fan of the new trilogy, the prequels. I watched a review. I'll try to remember to put the link to the review on here. But after watching that review, I understood why I didn't love the prequels. Like, because there was cool parts in them, or they may not have served a purpose per se, but there were parts in them that entertained my eyes, if not my brain, for a little while. But the original trilogy certainly was just a pivotal, life-changing thing for me. I mean, I quote Star Wars several times on the day. I wear sexy Star Wars shirts with wet nipples. What? I don't know. One of my kids was saying that today. You have wet nipples. I think because I was sweating from mowing the lawn. Yeah, this is where it goes. Star Wars to my kids telling me I have wet nipples. Awesome. So Star Wars. Obviously, it's a self-contained thing. If it hadn't gone over well, the story could have ended there and things would have been fine. Sure, Darth Vader's still out there, and the Empire hasn't been destroyed, but these 4 characters, 5, 6 characters, their main story was over. So, obviously, it's a moneymaker, and Lucas has plans for many of these movies. So he goes on to the second one. And the second one is just, he hits it out of the park. Like, he improved on everything he did in the first one and really just poured his heart into it. Like, the story is really good. Like, even if it's hard to take the story of Star Wars out of the Star Wars universe. But, like the second one was just so much more. And in so many ways, like, I mean, of course you can go to the old faithful, Kevin Smith and say, Luke gets his hand cut off, Han gets frozen in carbonite and gets taken to Jabba. He finds out that Vader might be his father. Like, it is such it's like, my grandmother and my mother used to talk about going to see nickel movies on Sunday afternoons, and there would be continuity. Like, you'd have to go see the next one next week. The movies would just continue like that. I don't know when or why that stopped. Maybe just production costs and stuff. But Empire brought that back from the 40s and 50s of these films or these ongoing sagas of characters, and so it really is that pinnacle moment, the end of the second part of the story. And when you pick up in the third one, so much has changed. Like, it's been, I don't know how many years or how long passes between the two of them. I'd have to look it up. But Luke is pretty much a full-fledged Jedi. So somehow he got the training he needed, rebuilt a new lightsaber. Maybe he went back to Yoda. Who knows? Maybe that'll be a story for another day. And he's badass. He's all in black. You're like, whoa. He doesn't look like Obi-Wan. He doesn't wear the Jedi robes like Obi-Wan did. And later on you'd go and see that his father had similar gay. I hate saying that word too. I apologize. I hate it. I've tried to break the habit of saying gay. And I've done a pretty good job of it up until right then. I haven't said that in a while, but I try to be very conscious of saying things that are really bad like that. I mean, not really bad. I mean, some gay people may not care that I use that word as an adjective. That was another thing. Retard. That's a real tough one. What happens? Why do I get on these tangents? So, you knew that this is the third movie, but as a kid, I wasn't familiar with trilogies. No one ever referred to anything as a trilogy before. So I didn't know that there was a beginning, middle, and end to the saga, or this mini saga. And so, obviously it wraps itself up really well in the end, Luke goes to see Yoda. Yoda tells him, yeah, that's your dad. Sorry about that. He's a real asshole. Just the sections in the movie are done so well, too. Think about, like, Jedi has so many different scenes in it. Scene 1, 3PO and R2 come to Jabba's palace, and, all the other characters. Lando is already there. Leia and Chewie are on their way there. Hans and Carbonite, Boba Fett's there. And that whole scenario where Luke comes in, Rancor, like that's a great scene. They're gonna go in the pit of Krakoon. I know I'm not that big of a geek. Sorry, I know it's a letdown. Carkoon, the Sarlacc pit, and like that whole scene, and then they get out of there and they meet in space, and they split, and Luke goes to see Yoda, and they go to. Oh no, they don't go to Endor. They go to the Mon Mothma and hang out with her. And then, actually, you don't know what they're doing in that time. They're probably just traveling where they need to go because the next scene, you see Luke come back with them. So there's that whole in between. And then you've got Force movement of Endor. And then you get the finale on the Death Star and in space, which it just handles it really well. Like, it covers all the characters and covers the bases, and it just wraps it up nice and tightly, and he redeems his dad, and, his dad's like, you know what, you're right. This guy is an asshole that I've been hanging out with for the last, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is. But the saga, that trilogy, I'm not going to talk about the prequels. I just want to talk positive, man. That first... 4, 5, and 6 just took over my life for, it's still a big part of my life. Anticipating these films is making me feel younger. I will say that. Like, I feel like it's in the right hands. I feel like the story's going to continue really well, and I hope I'm right. And I think I'm right, because Disney's not stupid. They're not going to make a terrible movie just because they want to make money. They make a decent film, a flick. And if they want to carry on the, Star Wars movies for another, 50, 100 years, then I don't know if you can do that. That's never been done before, anything like that in film at least. Well, I mean, I guess, you got James Bond is kind of creeping up on, probably like 30 or something like that. But you think about it, there's nothing to say that Star Wars couldn't still be something, 100 years from now. Could you imagine that? Because there's no way you could catch up. You'd have to just spot check at that point. Like, if something is so phenomenal, so sensational that carries on that many generations, like, I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying if it did, like, you could watch the first, like, 6 movies, but at that point, would it even matter? Like, you're so far beyond in generations, and, like, the stories could be retold or rebooted, which they'd probably do. God, I do not live to see the day that they reboot it. Unless they do 1, 2, and 3. Now, that could be interesting. Just wipe out the first prequel and do a new prequel. Anywho, I'd like to keep talking about Star Wars, but I feel like I'm boring you at this point. Favorite character? Han Solo. Hands down. No doubt. I mean, Luke is badass. He's got, by the third one, he's not a whiny bitch anymore. I don't mean that to, like, bitch. Like, he's just a bitch. By the third one, I just feel like he's a cool character, but, Han is Han. He's just the man, in my eyes, personally. So, we'll talk about this again another time. Star Wars is too big to encompass in less than at least 2 hours, or 9 hours. Anywho, keep cool on the road to 40, you cats out there, and I'll catch you next time, a little further down the road on episode 125.